Hello everyone. I think I ought to try and layer my ASCII Alice artwork in with this somehow. Or would that be too much? Well, let me know. In today's video, I will be upgrading my Linux. So I don't really have to, but I'm going to try and do for myself and encourage other people who are following along who are kind of on my platform and haven't like pip installed and apt installed too many things to make the platform, their own. And even so, they can freeze the requirements. I can walk them through that. But the time comes when you just want to update stuff. So, I don't have to quit out of this, but I guess I just am out of good form, so I just leave everything. Now, it's still running there in the background, in case you're not familiar with the concept. Once you have Linux on your Windows system, Linux is always running silently in the background after the first time you've opened the console window to it. Now, it does go to sleep a lot on you and freeze, which is why it's taking so long to come up here. And so long as it's open, Jupyter will run. Here's Jupyter. It doesn't even challenge you for the password if it's, finds everything and it's not maybe the first time logging in after a reboot. Might ask you to select the right kernel, but now there's going to be like kernels in memory and stuff. Here's, 3 different kernels running, one for each tab that has something in it. I guess a fourth doesn't have a kernel, not this text file. Text files don't need their own running Python kernel. So for every notebook you have open, there's also a running, frozen in time Linux kernel. It's like something running and frozen in mid-execution so that it can always get it back in the exact state it was in when it left off. The contents of variables and all. So we got 3 of them here, and we don't need any of them really running. We're just going to do a fresh install by going into, what are we going into? We're going into a web browser. You go into my website, mikelev.in/ux. Like Levinix. It'll bring you to the page with a rabbit. And I still got to align. Still got to fix that artwork. A couple of places I got it out of alignment. But the good thing is, when it brings us to this, the actual install script, the alignment is good. Alice ASCII artwork never looked better. So what you do is you select all, you copy, and because copies are sometimes stubborn these days, you copy multiple times. And I'll tempt fate and just quit entirely out of that web browser. Now you can go new text document, select all, install.bat. Yes, I would like to change it. Right click, edit. You'd think edit with Vim, but no, it's edit. Just edit. Edit brings up Notepad. Notepad is what you want. You paste in the script you just copied, which is in your copy buffer. You save that. And now you close that. And I guess the best thing to do is double click it at this point, right? Run it in Windows, almost a DOS window, really. These are the COM windows. It's not even a PowerShell. But it runs just as well there. It just doesn't look as good as it does in blue. It looks so much better from PowerShell, which is in blue. So let's close that and let's try seeing if right click can allow us to do that. No, I guess bats automatically go to COM windows, don't they? What a surprise. Interesting. All right, fine. I need to see what it looks like now from a COM window, especially in light of the new Alice artwork I just added. So this is a little special little surprise I give. So after that third prompt, boom, you got the Alice artwork. And the next thing it does actually takes, this may take a few minutes. So Alice in mid-fall is the last thing you see, and you got this lingering sense. I'm trying to actually make you feel the fall, and I felt anyone who's watched my videos like this before knows that the end of uh, the mouse's tail used to end here, and it had the word death in there. It was a downer. It was a fatal note. So I'm like, a real good Alice Askey piece of art belongs right there. And for the longest time, I just had my Windows 2000, so my Windows 11 machine set up with opaque terminals. So these same terminal windows you're seeing used here on Windows 11, you can make them semi-transparent. And I made it semi-transparent, and it went along for a few weeks like that. And then I knew I wanted to trace an Alice image. I even did an attempt earlier, but then from that failed earlier attempt, I realized I was sweating the details. So what I did is I found the perfect Alice image, and I set it as the desktop after having done quite a bit of a blur effect on it. I believe I just scaled up an image from a really low resolution, and it got rid of any distinct edges. And so when I had to trace that, and you trace it with your forward slashes and your backslashes and your commas and your periods, I'll show you what I'm talking about, because I don't see any reason not to, right? What we do here is we bring up a browser. And we just shoot that over there. Should it work that way? Yeah, and it lets you select that there. Make the font a little smaller. Oh, you can't make the font smaller. That's one of the things about command windows or DOS windows, whatever they are, versus PowerShells. All right, I don't think PowerShells can do that either. You need the Windows Terminal program for that. And so what was I gonna do? Alice is falling down the rabbit hole, and there's a whole bunch of stuff being installed. And for temporarily, this is going to lose connection. This doesn't work anymore, right? Because that Linux has been installed in the background. Reload? Yes, please, I would like to reload. Server connection error, as would be expected, and going to one of these can't reach the page screens. Well, that'll be back when this script finishes running. I had something I absolutely wanted to show you. I install a lot of stuff. Oh, the ASCII artwork. Like live.in/ux. And first we look at the version of it that is all messed up. And then we look at the version of it that is slick and correct right there. Well, I can't say that for the rest of the stuff that line wrapped. You can see up here where it's designed to be nice and readable on mobile, so people will go, oh, okay, that's what that is. And if they scroll further, they'll go, oh, that's meant for desktop. But we here on a desktop should not have to live with such broken text, so we just let it go wide. And the challenge to chase me. Learn how to use this at this location. So if you want to learn how to use this once you do it, but tech companies make money by you going obsolete. Artists, musicians, and athletes forever improve because their tools don't change every 2 to 5 years, letting them focus on craftsmanship. We in tech don't have that privilege because of relentless upgrade cycles and forced obsolescence because you must rebuy and retrain to feed company profits. So why don't you future-proof yourself? How's that sound as an idea? Future-proof yourself? There's a better way, and Microsoft had to include it in order to maintain credibility as a developer platform. You can now get the best of both worlds. This can be the beginning of a wonderful journey into the timeless tools of Linux, Python, Vim, and Git, starting with a proper install of Jupyter Lab. And so on, the script goes. You can see what the experience is like, how it lays it out. Basically, how I'm doing what you're seeing occur here, right? So this is doing a bunch of stuff. I can scroll up and show you progress and stuff, but I can also just explain it by showing the script itself. So it gets up to this point where, here, around here, it is deleting your prior Ubuntu 20.04 and putting a new one in place. Unregister, that's a delete command. Set default to version 2 in case you haven't already. Set WSL user, a variable it's going to be using, to a variable name, Ubuntu. And set password to foo. So those are just two values you're carrying around for later use. Well, you can see the later use. There's a WSL user, and there's the password. So it's used in these commands that are executed from the context of the WSL instance. This is actually a Ubuntu command being run as user root with sh, not even necessarily bash, but the shell interpreter. It doesn't need much. And to the shell interpreter, we're saying run the command echo the WSL user with the parentheses around it. I think echo works that way. See that echo, the quote there? It's a little bit confusing there. Not my favorite code, but it's writing, the user colon the password and then piping it into ch password, change password. So password is changed to foo on these Pipulate servers I put on your machine, so you can always get in as user. And then a different kind of shell as change shell, WSL user, right? You're just changing the shell. You're not logging out and logging in. You're just changing. This is not something I do every day. It took me a while to even recognize what I was looking at. But this is a user mod, so you're changing the types of privileges that the user has, and you're, I guess, adding globally all these different privileges to WSL user. They're a pretty powerful user there. You know that. And then this is an executable that's on Windows these days, where it configures a Ubuntu 20.04 using that. That configures a Ubuntu 20.04. Boy, that makes it look antiquated like 2004, doesn't it? I never thought about it that way, but I don't think it's that old, and it's pretty good stuff. It's a good platform to be on. And then let's see where this is up to on the running script. Where's that running script? Oh, that was on the same screen. I checked that here. Yeah, see, it's still in progress. I can just keep rambling on and talking while that's going on. The Pipulate server install is not snappy. It takes a while now. It's no Levinix. It's no actual Levinix. I could just go demonstrate to you how Levinix works like 10 times in the time it takes to do one of these server builds. So you'd say, well, why not just Docker? Well, because there's value in a server build. Look at how the server's getting built. Pay attention. Take control of it. Docker is all about taking control out of your hands and to have pre-configured things, not from original source. Server install scripts. Server install scripts are about you understanding what's going on, putting the power in your hands, having it reproducible on anyone's host machine. This is something that can get run on any modern Windows 10 or Windows 11. And all this stuff carries out, for the most part, exactly the same on everyone's machine. And it even goes so far as to set the icons on some of these desktops. I am determined for your desktop icon for Linux shell to be this cool. And that, you will see right here, the bash icon I'm copying into location. So it's your cool Linux shell icon. I don't think I do that for Jupyter because you got to get your own Jupyter desktop icon out there. But I wish I could because I could make your Jupyter icon look really cool. I do believe that if you clone the GitHub repo instead of just copying and pasting the contents of the bash file, that you then can have this icon because it's in the repo. I can confirm that. Windows key E, repos, and this is drink me. And I should be able, I probably left it here unless I put it in an icons directory. Well, you look at that. And there's 3 icons that are part of the Linux or Pipulate or whatever system. So there's a nice bash icon that becomes that. And now you can go in there and you can set your own Jupyter icon because you get a terrible Jupyter icon from Edge. When you save out an app from Edge, it gives you an icon here, and you can change its icon by right-clicking, going to Properties, change icon, and then you would surf your way into this location and set it. That's how you get these 2 icons looking so nice side by side like that. And we'll take another look over here. Did I hit a key? Do I have to hit backspace to release it? Oh my goodness. I think I did. I had it frozen like that all that time. Will I still use the video? Yeah, sure, why not? Look at this. It's up to installing Python 3.11. But boy, that wasted a lot of time, didn't it? I was talking about all that other stuff. It could have been doing the install. Oh, my kitties are looking at the blanket I put up over the window to dampen the sound. They don't like that. I wouldn't if I was you either. I'll change that. You can go around it for now. I have good cats. There are 2 little kitties I know. I guess the last thing I can point out here is that I really do hand control over to another script. It doesn't stay here forever because a lot of this is much better accomplished without issuing commands in a sort of whisper down the laneway. In fact, there's a couple of things that take command here and there. Here's one of the main ones. This gives command to an install.sh because currently up to this point this thing is actually an install.bat, but from this point on it's an install.sh that's actually running, and a lot happens from this between this line and this line. A whole other install script that you don't see here is actually running. I could probably just change that to an sh to show it to you, but I've shown you a lot. And after that's all done, it just does a little bit of cleanup, I guess, mostly. It's back. Right? Oh, it does a shutdown. It does a whole shutdown and restart. So that's to get the ACLs correct. I know the signature of that. Some permissions rights are so darn stubborn, there's no way you can purge the old permission rights, some sort of token thing going on, without a restart. So you restart your machine when you want new access control lists to be applied. So there's a reboot here. And when it comes back from the reboot, it actually does some key magic in order to keep a git keys to keep SSH keys in a GitHub repo. They generally don't let you do that, but I do some trickery here with a ROT13 program is somewhere thrown in there that recovers those keys from a lightly encrypted file so that it can do the git installs. Everything that's found in this file is pretty much a sudo git. No, I mean, yeah, it's not even a sudo. It's just a git clone. It's cloning things into locations. So I guess we check on how that's going now. It gets colorful somewhere along the line. It gets up to the pip install. A lot of SEO stuff. There's yet another keyword extractor. There's Jupyter Lab itself. Jupyter Lab spell checker, which I activate. IPy widgets, which are fun. Seaborn, a lot of great visualization stuff. I have to tell you, anyone who's used to Anaconda as their big fat install of a lot of stuff, but you were only ever there for Jupyter, and you didn't need Orange, and you didn't need all this other IDE stuff they loaded up with. The world has changed a lot. You can get by with a very slim environment. As slim as this isn't that slim, is it? But if you're doing Jupyter, you don't need everything that traditionally comes along with Jupyter, either the pain of a install or the bloat and licensing gotchas of an Anaconda install. You don't need either one of those. So setup PY still sometimes have to be run. So my favorite component still has a setup PY. That makes me sad. There's very few things more useful than a persistent dictionary in Python. Persistent dictionaries are very nice and should be part of everyone's, introduction to Python. Here's how a list works. Here's how a tuple works. Here's how a dictionary works. And here's how you use a third-party package to make that dictionary persistent. That would be a very good introduction to Python. I would go do that now if the Linux side of this machine were not temporarily on hold. That's me showing you web stuff from a browser posing as Linux. I'll get rid of that for now. And so now when I look at stuff, there's not a lot going on my machine. It's nice having this view of it, knowing if you do one window per desktop, there's not a lot of piled up stuff hiding. You don't have much more running than what it looks like at a quick visual glance here. Usually a full screen. Oh, see, I left this open to show you Linux going away. Bye-bye Linux, no more Linux. I can close that. And in fact, if I pull this up, it's in the middle of a Linux install now. You don't know what you're going to get. Oh, that looks like full install. That was full install. So if I go back here, this last jellyfish thing, whatever that is going on, must not. Do I have output locked up again? No, I don't. It should be more showing here because that feels like a very finished install when I see if I do a refresh here. Nope, it didn't get through the full install yet. Hello, jellyfish shouldn't take that long. Maybe I had it locked up, I don't know. NB Black, very useful, keeping your code very, very pretty and clean. And all that stuff there. Oh, Node.js is getting installed. What? Node.js? Yeah, Node.js. I think that was version 16 point something, so pretty new too. Unpacking Node.js. Just when you thought I couldn't fit one more thing, but there's a couple little things in there that call for Node, so find Node. I'll have it there. We can talk JavaScript and running Node.js locally. There's a lot to be said for that. This is usually close to the end, right? It's back from a shutdown. It's like, hey, I just restarted Linux right underneath you while this script is done running. And I'm not quite done yet. I've got a few things to install from GitHub. Thank you very much. They are now mostly installed. Oh, but Playwright has one more thing it wants to do. Because, you know, the first time you try doing anything with Chromium, with Playwright, it's going to say, where's my Chromium? And same thing for Firefox and WebKit if you need it, but I don't do WebKit. I haven't had to do WebKit in my testing, so I just go for the default Chromium and Firefox. And from earlier, there was a full genuine Chrome install, but that already happened. Probably when I was off talking about something else with you guys. Oh, I guess I do play WebKit as well. Look at that. Maybe I shouldn't, because, well, that's just part of the install. It does them all. Because when you try to do WebKit, there's further requirements further dependencies you got to install. And that seemed like a pain. So there it is at the real end, right? So it gives you some of these instructions here. But, you know, when you close out of this, if you go back into your Linux shell, now you don't want to double run that. It'll go through the whole process again. So we'll just say goodbye to that. When you go into a Microsoft terminal, it'll now give you as an option or be your default. I believe I messed with the icon a bit so that it's your default. It will give you your Linux. And now once your Linux is there, your Jupyter notebook will run again. Run again, run again. Make me eat my words, will you? Well, we can see what port it's running on by doing screen-ls, screen reattach Jupyter. And, well, it looks like it's on port 8888. So maybe I close it and I open it again. Yeah, I close it and I open it again. I was just a little too fast. Remember, the password is foo. And even though it makes you log in again after, you know, what was to itself more than a reboot, this is a whole fresh system. Look at that, it's in dark mode. It has picked up my Jupyter config, including my keyboard shortcuts from my prior session. It's even coming back with the same, you know, the same kernels, the same Python kernels in memory with the same tabs open, with the whole Linux system underneath of it. You understand, the whole system underneath of this has just been replaced, updated. It's a different Linux system there. Yet here I am. It probably isn't going to let me do this because Tweepy is not part of my normal install. But if I wanted it to be, I could add it to the requirements file there. So for any lost requirements, that's one of the prices, right? It's one of the prices. You do have to go in here to a shell, and you can go pip install Tweepy. Tweepy, install. Successfully installed Tweepy. And we go back here, and now that, oops, and now that, there it goes, it runs. Load the API key, authorize against the API. For my username, hey, why not? Hit the API again, let's backfill away. Although I have this other method I'm playing around with, I might switch to this. Here's API differences, right? It's nice when you have an API that calls itself what it is. Tweets is being set equal to an instance of API dot something. So that's the API for Twitter. It's Twitter's API, right? And that was created over here. API equals tweepy dot API authorization. You gotta love it when something really makes sense with how they name stuff. You can follow it and go, okay, yeah, I get that. So there's two different ways of using the API here. Tweets equals API.user timeline, and inside of that you give a bunch of parameters. Okay. And then here, for page in tweepy.cursor, open parenthesis, tweepy dot, there's that user timeline again, but it's being opened up inside of a cursor, a tweepy cursor object, which gives me hope that I'll be able to step through a lot more tweets, because the last time I did this project, it crapped out at, some 3,600 out of my 1,100 tweets. So, not 36 out. It's 3,600 out of my 11,000 tweets. That's more like it. So, I have to revisit this, and it's no problem. So, pretty cool, huh? Swapping out a whole Linux underneath of me as I'm working, letting you see Jupyter server running in a screen. And what else to show you? This is the continuing transition onto Linux as a platform, because it's easy to do this from Windows. It's easy to do this from Windows. It's easy to do this from Windows. WSL install and take the shortcut using my wonderful magical script at myname/ux, mikelev.in/ux. First, my web page in the horribly deformed ASCII text. And then after about 10 seconds or so, the install me script. You control all, copy, paste it, make a new file on your desktop, run it, and bada boom, bada bing. A very data science friendly, data engineering, SEO friendly instance of Jupyter on your desktop, sort of, through your browser at port 8888. And there you have it. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon. And don't forget to subscribe.